This is the thing that I wish I knew when I first met Jesus. Have you ever been in a season where you feel like the first love fire you once had for Jesus has slowly just diminished? To be honest, I was in a season like that where I felt like this love that I had for Jesus, this zeal that I once had for Jesus slowly diminished. In that season, the Lord said to me, Camden, why are you still partaking and eating from the very things that are decaying your soul and stealing away your attention, whether it's good things or even bad things? You see, it took God that season to wake me up from the slumber that I was in. I was being deceived, but I didn't know I was being deceived. These were things that seemed really innocent and really good to eat from, but I didn't realize in the long term that these things were actually decaying my soul and stealing that first love fire that I once had for Jesus. You have to protect the flame that God lights on the altar of your heart. You see, in the Old Testament, in this temple that they set up for the very presence of God, God would light the fire on the altar, but the ministers were called to tend and keep to that very fire. We, as these New Testament believers and ministers of the gospel, are called to minister to the very heart of God and to tend to the flame that God lights on our own heart. You see, God recently brought me back to Genesis 2 and 3. Adam and Eve are in this garden and they have this perfect choice. They can either choose Jesus, which will satisfy everything, or they could choose to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. While the story might seem basic, this is the same choices we face every single day, multiple times a day. We either can choose Jesus or we can choose the world. That tree was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But good things don't always mean God things. You can either choose Jesus or you could choose to eat from a tree, knowing everything but truly missing out on the best that God has. In Genesis 3, Eve starts engaging with the enemy in conversation after he says, "Did God really tell you not to eat from that tree?" Why did Eve stop talking to God and Adam and go over and walk towards the very tree that God told them not to eat from? We a lot of times will stop talking to God or stop gazing upon God's beauty or the trees that God told us to eat from, and we'll go over and we'll even gaze at the very tree that God told us not to. The seed that caused Eve to stumble and sin, and also caused Adam to sin and stumble, was that choice to turn away from Jesus, to stop gazing at Jesus and actually start gazing on the very tree, the very things that God told them not to gaze at or even eat from.